Acassuso, Argentina, the 13th of January 2006. 300 police officers have Banco Rio surrounded. Inside, 23 hostages lie flat on marble floors, and a masked man is pointing a pistol at the ceiling. One of them just asked for pizza. The negotiator thinks it's a joke, or a stall, or the start of a breakdown. It's neither. 2 floors down, underneath all of it, a second crew has been inside the vault for almost 2 hours. And they're not carrying real guns at all. Upstairs is the show, downstairs is the robbery. In 7 minutes, 6 men are going to disappear from a bank, surrounded by an entire police force. And one of them is going to lose everything to the person who trusted him most. Rewind to December 2003. Fernando Araujo is a struggling artist in Buenos Aires, staring at newspaper photographs of a different bank, a different day. Ramallo, 1999. Police stormed that building. 2 hostages died on live television. Most people see a tragedy. Araujo sees a design flaw. What if the robbers never got cornered in the first place? What if, instead of a shootout, there was just nothing? An empty vault? An empty bank? No one left to arrest. He sketches the idea on a napkin. 2 teams, 1 job, a bank that never sees it coming. He takes it to Sebastian Garcia Bellotti, a high school friend who fixes motorcycles for a living, hands scarred from years of welding. Bellotti's family lost 80,000 pesos when Argentina's banking system collapsed in 2001. Savings gone overnight. The kind of loss you don't get back. When Araujo unrolls his sketches across the workbench, Bellotti doesn't ask if it's crazy. He asks how. Banco Rio's Acassuso branch sits directly above a network of storm drains that empty into the Rio de la Plata, its vault extending down into the basement. During business hours, motion sensors switch off, so employees can reach their boxes. Bellotti traces the drainage lines on the blueprint. To reach the vault, a tunnel would have to run 150 meters through active sewage pipes and break through 2 feet of reinforced concrete, without a single vibration reaching the bank above. Bellotti doesn't say it's impossible, he starts calculating. Acassuso isn't random. After 2001, wealthy clients stopped trusting banks and started renting private boxes instead. Cash, gold, uncut diamonds, anything a teller's drawer couldn't hold. Box rentals here run 3 times the city average, and unlike serial numbered bills, whatever's inside those boxes is untraceable the moment it leaves. So who signs up for a plan like this? And which one of them ends up taking the whole crew down from the inside? January 2004. Ruben Beto de la Torre is chalking a pool cue in a Buenos Aires billiard hall when Araujo sits down across from him. Beto robbed 17 banks in the 1980s with a crew called Superbond. He knows vault layouts, police response times, hostage psychology, and Araujo's father from the old neighborhood. He asks 3 questions. How much money? How many guns? How many men? The answers, $20 million minimum, 0 real weapons, 6 people. Beto agrees, on one condition. His own partner comes with him. That partner is Luis Mario Vitet Selanes, a former soldier the crew starts calling the Uruguayan. Vitet once controlled 43 hostages for 6 hours using nothing but tone of voice, never firing a shot. He goes through Araujo's plan line by line, tightening it with military precision. The fake pistols need weight, the hostages need to believe the threat without being harmed, and every man playing a role needs his own script. Through old contacts, a man known only as Doc joins next. Another Superbond veteran, 8 years in prison behind him, and an obsession with patience. For 3 months, he photographs every angle of Banco Rio. Staff shift changes at 8:47 in the morning, the armored truck at 2:15 in the afternoon, the manager's smoke break at 10:30. Buried in his minute-by-minute map of the branch is a golden window. Friday afternoons, 12:30 to 3:30, when wealthy clients visit their boxes before the weekend and vault security quietly relaxes. Julian Zaloechevarria signs on as the driver, the only member who never sets foot inside the bank. A former racing mechanic whose career ended in a crash, he scouts 17 escape routes out of the storm drains and times police response from every nearby station, 13 minutes from Acassuso, 18 from the next precinct over. He'll wait at manhole 47B, 3 blocks away, engine running. Bellotti, the crew is calling him the engineer now, starts going underground at 2 in the morning. Wetsuit on, laser measuring every distance. He's mapped this stretch of pipe 47 times before he ever picks up a tool. The tunnel runs directly beneath the vault, separated by 24 inches of reinforced concrete, and breaking through it silently will take a pneumatic hammer built to run underwater, industrial pumps, and enough lumber to stop it from collapsing. The full list costs 50,000 pesos, about $5,000, raised by robbing a smaller bank first, successfully, in late 2004. By December 2005, all 6 men are in place, each there for a different reason: revenge, money, the pull of doing something no one else has managed, but all following Araujo's plan to the letter. They rehearse in an abandoned warehouse, running every failure mode they can think of: police arriving early, a hostage collapsing, the tunnel flooding. They drill it until the responses stop feeling like decisions. Bellotti hears the concrete before he sees it. 9 months of nights in the dark, working in 10-second bursts, stopping to listen for footsteps he'll never hear. October brings flooding, so he runs pumps off car batteries. One night, the methane reading spikes hard enough that he retreats and comes back with an oxygen tank strapped to his side. Another night, his headlamp catches a man living rough in the tunnel, who bolts at the sight of the light. Bellotti checks the newspapers the next morning. There's nothing. He keeps working. Meanwhile, above ground, the reconnaissance never stops. Vitet opens a checking account just to study the building from the inside, memorizing all 13 cameras and the blind spot near the basement stairwell. Doc learns the staff by name and habit. Branch manager Diego Manzoni, first in every morning. Vault keys always on a chain at his belt. The guard, Carlos Perez, 58, 2 years from retirement, never once having drawn his weapon during a monthly drill. By the 20th of December 2005, Bellotti breaks through the last inch of concrete. His headlamp finds smooth tile above him, the vault floor, seen until now only in blueprints. He cuts a hole just wide enough for one man, photographs it, and seals it back up with fast-drying cement he can crack open in seconds when the day comes. 5 days before Christmas, the crew runs a full dress rehearsal in real time, 2 hours and 7 minutes, zero margin either way, too short, and the tunnel team is still underground when it's over. Too long, and someone upstairs might check the basement. Zalo Echevarria drives the escape route until he could do it blind. On the 11th of January, 48 hours out, Araujo hands out replica pistols, plastic Berettas weighted with lead, along with masks, gloves, and the coveralls the tunnel team will wear underground. The forecast for the 13th: clear skies, 87 degrees, hot enough that police are unlikely to be in heavy gear. Doc asks the only question that matters: what happens if somebody dies? A hostage, a cop, one of them. Araujo doesn't hesitate. They walk away, and it's over. The plan only works if nobody gets hurt. The plan needs exactly 2 hours and 7 minutes, not a second more. But no amount of rehearsal accounts for what happens after the money is split, and for how long one man can keep his mouth shut. The 13th of January 2006, 12:28 in the afternoon. Bellotti steps into the storm drain in coveralls, an underwater sledgehammer in hand, with Beto and Doc waiting behind him through sewage up to their knees. They reach the sealed opening under Banco Rio. One strike, and the cement plug crumbles. The 3 of them are standing inside the vault. Above their heads, 23 customers and employees go through an ordinary Friday, with no idea that 3 men have just surfaced beneath the floor. Meanwhile, upstairs, 3 minutes later at 12:31, Vitet, Araujo, and a second version of Doc walk through the front doors dressed like businessmen. Vitet approaches the front desk, asking about opening an account, and the second Perez looks away. He draws the fake pistol. Nobody move. This is a robbery. His voice carries the flat authority of someone who has controlled a room before. Araujo locks the entrance. Within 90 seconds, the entire branch belongs to them. By 12:45, police have their first emergency call. By 12:52, 40 patrol cars have the block sealed off. By 1:15, 300 officers hold a perimeter, a helicopter overhead, snipers on the surrounding rooftops. Inside, Vitet, the crew calls him Walter on the phone now, starts his performance, his tone almost apologetic. "We don't want anyone hurt. We just need time." He releases a bank teller as a show of good faith, and she comes out in tears, telling police her captors seemed nervous, not violent. The negotiators read that as weakness. They have it backward. Below them, at 1:30, Bilatti's pneumatic ram is already cracking open boxes in seconds apiece. Box 73 bursts with euros. Box 91 holds gold coins stamped 1892. Box 156 contains bearer bonds worth $2 million on their own. They work the walls in order, left, back, right, leaving untouched anything not worth the risk. Family photographs, old love letters, a box that turns out to hold someone's ashes. Other boxes are packed so densely with cash it looks fake. One holds nothing but loose-cut emeralds, scattered like green glass across the floor. Everything that matters goes into waterproof bags. At 2:47, Walter makes his demand. Pizza, 30 boxes, every topping, enough for hostages and robbers both. The negotiator laughs out loud, certain it's a joke. But the request still climbs the chain of command, through a commissioner, then a chief, each laugh buying another few minutes underground. By 3:05, delivery drivers arrive under police escort, and the smell of oregano and melted cheese fills a bank still technically under siege. Hostages eat with their hands shaking. One later calls it the strangest meal of her life. Police psychologists read it as a good sign. The robbers, they decide, are humanizing their captives. Meanwhile, below, Bilatti checks his watch at 3:27. 143 boxes cracked. Roughly $19 million in mixed currency, gold and jewels, stuffed into bags that barely close. He tapes a note to the wall. Without weapons or grudges, it's just money, not love. And the tunnel team lowers itself back through the hole. Upstairs, Walter delivers his last lie to the negotiator. "We're coming out. 5 minutes." Then he hangs up. At 3:32, the tunnel crew loads the bags onto an inflatable raft and paddles through total darkness toward the exit. 3 blocks away, Zaloichevaria waits at manhole 47B, engine running. One by one they climb out, soaked and reeking of sewage, and pile into his van. By 3:33, while 300 police officers still hold a perimeter around a bank they believe is under active siege, the real robbers are already gone, folded into traffic. Inside, Vitet walks the hostages down to a basement conference room. "Stay here. Don't move for 10 minutes. He locks the door, sets a row of toy guns beside it, and follows the others down the hole. 4 hours pass before anyone finds out. At 7:45 that evening, a SWAT team breaches Banco Rio. Flash grenades go off in empty rooms. Officers clear space after space and find 23 hostages locked in the basement, shaken but unharmed. A neat row of toy pistols by the door, pizza boxes, some still warm, no robbers at all. Commander Miguel Cleo gets on the radio. The subjects have vanished. Silence on every channel. Then somebody asks what he means by vanished. At 8:15, detectives step into the vault. Safe deposit doors hang open on every wall, torn velvet and loose pearls scattered across the tile. Someone kicks aside a stack of gold certificates, worthless without the bonds they were paired with. Then a flashlight beam finds it, a perfect circle cut into the floor, leading straight down into a drainage system that runs for miles under Buenos Aires. The note on the wall is still there. One detective says out loud what everyone in the room is already thinking. They played us. By morning, it's the only story on Argentine television. Anchors can't decide whether to be outraged or amazed. The BBC calls it brilliantly audacious. CNN interviews hostages who describe the men who held them at gunpoint as polite, almost entertaining. The manager, dragged to a window as a prop for police to see, says Walter apologized to her while doing it. "I'm sorry, senora, but the police need to see this." Photographs of forensic teams bagging toy pistols run in every paper. After a banking collapse that had already taken people's savings once, a lot of Argentines don't see criminals. They see 6 men who robbed the rich without hurting anyone, and that reads, to them, like justice with better timing. Detectives launch the largest manhunt in the country's history. They find bleach poured across the scene, hair samples tracing back to random salons, a getaway van wiped clean, a tunnel with no usable prints. Every piece of it planted to burn time. 300 witnesses interviewed, 10,000 hours of footage reviewed, 1,400 leads chased down. By February 2006, every one of them has gone nowhere. No suspects, no arrests. Graffiti appears on walls around Buenos Aires. Banco Río 6, Police 0. A song about the heist tops the local charts. The 6 men who vanished from a surrounded bank are already folk heroes. But in a modest house in Buenos Aires province, Alicia Dulio is watching her husband count $100 bills into stacks. She knows exactly where that money came from. On the 15th of February 2006, Alicia finds $73,000 sealed inside her bedroom wall. Beto opened the plaster while she was visiting her mother, packed the cash behind the insulation, patched it back up, and the only reason she notices is the new paint doesn't quite match the old. It isn't the first time. There was money under the floorboards once, money inside the water heater another time. Her own house has slowly become a second vault. She also doesn't know, not yet, that Beto is planning to leave. He's already told friends he's moving to Paraguay, with a 23-year-old named Claudia he met at a nightclub. Alicia finds the messages herself. She confronts him, he denies it, then admits it, then promises it's already over. 3 days later, she follows him to Claudia's apartment and pounds on the door until neighbors call the police. Officers arrive to find her in the hallway, crying, shouting about stolen money and Banco Rio. One of them writes it down. Something about the name makes him look twice. 5 days after that, Alicia Dulio walks into federal police headquarters on her own. She gives them names. Her husband, his friend Vitet, a man called Doc. She describes planning meetings that happened in her own kitchen while she made coffee for men she thought were just Beto's friends. Talk of tunnels, gun rehearsals, pizza as a strategy. She knows the guns were fake because Beto laughed about it for hours afterward, the kind of story a man tells his wife without thinking what it costs him later. She doesn't know the names Araujo or Bolatti. Beto kept her from that much, at least, on purpose. But what she does know is more than enough. In exchange for protection for herself and her 7-year-old son, she tells them everything. Pre-dawn raids hit across Buenos Aires on the 7th of March 2006. At 4:47, police break down Beto's door and find him asleep beside $970,000 in cash. He doesn't resist. At 4:48, they arrest Vitet at his mother's house. At 4:51, Doc surrenders at his own front door without a fight. Within hours, follow-up raids pick up Araujo, Bolatti, and Zaloechevarria. The only evidence against any of them is Alicia's testimony and the cash in her husband's house. The rest of the $19 million is nowhere to be found. When the arrests make the news, the public reaction isn't relief, it's disappointment. Polling finds 68% of Argentines wanted the 6 of them to stay free. Lawyers offer to defend them for nothing. Crowds gather outside the courthouse to cheer. Even some hostages refuse to testify, insisting they were treated well the whole time. The trial turns into its own kind of performance. Araujo argues the heist was a work of art, aimed at the institutions that had already robbed the country once. Bolatti walks the court through the tunnel's engineering with the calm of a man giving a lecture, and jurors laugh along with him. Vitet never breaks character. None of them deny what they did. What they refuse is shame. When a prosecutor asks about the missing money, Araujo just smiles. What money? We brought toy guns into a bank. Private boxes were never registered, so no one can prove how much disappeared. And any owner who claims a loss risks admitting they were hiding untaxed assets in the first place. Sentences land between 9 and 15 years. By 2020, all 6 men are free. Araujo writes a book, sells the film rights, lectures at universities about what he calls creative resistance. Everybody won, he says. The police got fame, the prosecutors got promotions, and we got rich. $17 million has never resurfaced. Some think it's buried. Others think it's long spent. A few think the 6 of them lived quietly off the interest the whole time they were in prison. Every other member of the crew still calls the heist a triumph. Beto doesn't. His wife took the money as proof. His girlfriend took the fear. And his own crew took their trust back the moment the story got out. 300 police officers, a helicopter, and a full tactical unit couldn't find 6 men hiding 2 floors under a bank. It took one woman with a paint color that didn't match. She's the one who made the magicians disappear.